day two of hard surfaces, and Ryan Fasan, our Canadian tile guru, is going to talk us through the macro trends that are running the tile industry with specific reference to wall tiles.
Thank you guys for showing up. My name is Ryan Fasan. I've been working in the tile industry since I was 13. I've done everything from sales to creative direction, doing product development. Now I run a construction company and I actually build homes and do a lot of ceramic installation from small format wall tile to slabs. And I've been Tile of Spain's technical consultant now for 15 years. So I do trends forecasts for the industry all around the world. And this is one that I put together for Tile of Spain. And I think that this year is a really exciting year to be in the field of ceramics because technology has really progressed in a very dramatic way over the past couple of years. And it's really kind of speaking to the overall trends that we have in the industry. So when I do my trend research, I kind of look at everything else before I look at the building industry because our idea of trends is what we're exposed to each and every day of our lives, right? What kind of shows we're watching, what books we're reading, what's showing up in our news feeds and things like that. That starts to build what our preferences are. And one of the sort of core concepts that I love seeing with this generation coming up and really starting to take the reins is the environment is becoming much more important to us. And especially in our built environment, it makes a huge difference. And I love this quote from the late Pope John Paul that nothing is going to change unless we take a serious hard look at our lifestyle. And that's the only way that we're going to solve this ecological problem. And this is what I love about the younger generation that's starting to take the reins is we're really trying to change the connotations of what it means for humans' footprints on the earth. Up until now, our footprint has always been a negative effect. Anywhere we as humans go on the planet, we tend to make it worse. And what I love seeing in this industry, things like sustainability meets design right here, like you guys, what you're doing, and what the ceramic industry is doing, is we're really trying to change humankind's footprint into a net positive. And I think the ceramic story, that is a story that is thousands of years old in our history, really is starting to evolve in a way that is so beneficial for the built environment. And just to give you a little snapshot on how this is all coming to pass in multiple different industries, we're seeing this keyword regenerative being utilized in tourism, agriculture, tech, and even entertainment. We're seeing all of these new documentaries coming out where it's not necessarily how can we do less harm, it's how can we actually be net positive. And we're starting to see that mentality across almost every category in the world. And one of the key things that's so important to us today is transparency. The business model is really starting to shift. If you look at a lot of small business sort of mission statements and core concepts, what they're talking about is more like what doctors subscribe to, which is the Hippocratic Oath. First, we do no harm. Then we figure out how to make profit. First, we want to make a positive impact. And then we see what the business model is. And transparency becomes really, really easy when there's nothing to hide. And that's why I say ceramics have a very amazing standpoint in being able to stand up and tell the story without any kind of trying to hide anything or sweep it under the rug, because trust is becoming the most valuable commodity that we have today. I love this picture because it really kind of focuses on what the kind of mindset of the 2020s is. It's, oh, I hear all of these things, and if what you say is true, then prove it. Stand up behind it and convince me that it's true. And I love that we in the ceramic industry have that ability, that we can embody what we're saying because it's such a responsible material and there's thousands, literally thousands of years of history to back it up. Actually, what we know about past civilizations is really only because of the ceramic material that's been able to be recovered. Um, Carbon dating is only possible with ceramic material. So we've got 4,000-year-old ceramics from ancient Egypt. We've got 3,000-year-old, almost 3,000-year-old from ancient Assyria in the Ishtar Gate. And today we can create new ceramics that have the same patina and beautiful variants of the Egyptian faience and the ancient Assyrian tile in Babylon. So what I love to say, are you guys familiar with the term biomimicry? Probably, given what you do. Biomimicry is taking inspiration from nature and doing what nature does. And that's really what ceramics is. It's taking all the processes that it takes the world millennia to make natural stone and bringing it down to, in modern production, 45 minutes and creating something out of nothing. And in 4,000 years of history in ceramics, there's really been no change to the recipe. It's simply plasticized clays, and plasticized doesn't mean they have any plastics, they're just moldable. Mixed with feldspar, the second most plentiful mineral on Earth, is found in 90% of the rocks on the planet. Mixed with natural minerals, mineral oxides in our glazes, and silicates that form the crystalline structure of our glazes, exposed to pressure and heat like we have in the Earth's crust, and we fuse and sinter man-made stone, which is ceramic material. Now there's a speaker, an author, and a teacher named Jocko Willink in the US. He's an ex-Navy SEAL commander, and he's got a book, a TED Talk, and a podcast under the name Extreme Ownership. And that's something that really characterizes what people are looking for today. And that's transparency without qualifications. So I love to say that it's easy for the ceramic industry to do that because it's 100% natural, it's inert, it has a very long lifespan, and it is inert after its lifespan as well. We've got all kinds of different ways to utilize post in situ and post lifespan, useful lifespan ceramics that are showcased over there. You guys are doing some really cool stuff as well. The one thing that a lot of industries have that they can point a finger at ceramics, and ceramics know this, is that we've got a high embodied energy. Even though there's a long lifespan, it's fired with natural gas. There's a pretty big carbon footprint. It's mitigated when it's amortized over its lifespan, but it's something that the ceramic industry is focused very heavily on. And I've got a couple really neat initiatives. But Spain's really leading the way with the very first countrywide EPD. They've done a full LCA analysis of the entire industry in Spain, and they've got an online tool for Spanish manufacturers to publish EPDs, Type 3 environmental product declarations, and they're part of the European Union's paving the way and roadmap to reduce emissions and carbon reliance by 2050 by 55%. So I want to talk a little bit about what our capabilities are and what the kind of mindset is on trends in the ceramic industry because of the long lifespan. We say that there's at least 75 years useful lifespan of ceramics. Here in Europe, you see that even more, like cities like Barcelona, where there's 100, 110-year-old simple wall tile installations from Antoni Gaudi and all kinds of different architects across Europe that have been there for 100 years in some of. So when we're looking at trends in ceramics, we don't necessarily do the kind of flash in the pan trends. Things like Pantone Color Institute and all of the paint companies, they come out with a color of the year each and every year. Ceramics are always looking for the through line that's going to complement all of those color tones for the next decade kind of thing. So we're looking at where the trends are going and where they're coming from, and we're trying to pick the middle ground and the complementary tones around those flashes in the pan. So when it comes to technology in ceramics, digital production improvements have come a long way to where we can get to these natural stone looks that are not just the visual characteristics, the colors, but even the textures, the patinas and the finishes that we can manipulate digitally. And all of that is mostly from the decoration capabilities that we have. And it's about a 20-year time span since we could decorate digitally. The very first inkjet printer for ceramics that printed ceramic inks came out in the year 2000 at the Spanish trade show Cebisama in Valencia, Spain. It was a Spanish company called Carajet, and it was 4 color bars. So each of these are bars. So think about your DeskJet printers at home where you have CMYK toner inks. In ceramics, we have close to CMYK, and that's what it started with, 4 bars of color. They were slightly different colors because of the kind of colors that we need in ceramics, but it was essentially CMYK, and we started with 4 bars. About 10 years later, we realized in ceramics, colors like white and gray are incredibly important. So we added those 2 inks as well. So all of a sudden, we've got 6 bars by 2010. In 2015, we added a finish. We were able to print glossy or matte inks on top of those colors. So we get to 7 bars. We added one more effect by 2018 where we could maybe add a metallic, or we could add a glue where we could add a dry frit granilla on top of the surface. Today in 2023, from 2018 to 2023, just 5 years, we've gone from 7 or 8 bars to 12 bars in most of our printers. Half of those are just effects. So half of those are structure, our patina, our sheen, and we're adding everything outside the visible spectrum that's giving us the ability to create truly natural effects. So today we're talking about wall tile. And one of the things in wall tile is some of our most decorative. We fire actually 3 and sometimes 4 times because of all the delicate minerals that we can add that have to have much lower firing temperatures than the sintering temperature of the body. Something like this, even 2 years ago, would have been a 3rd or 4th fire because of all that structure. This is actually a flat tile, and everything there, all of that structure, all of the metallic, all of the patina, all of that is done digitally, and it's fired a single time. So it's sold by the square foot, just like, or square meter here, just like any of the normal field tile. Something like this would have been a 3rd or 4th fire, and it probably would have been for a 30 by 30 centimeter piece. It probably would have been $150. Today, it's maybe $20, $25 or pounds. So this is really, really important when it comes to what we're doing in ceramic decoration. Color space is 3-dimensional. So when we're looking at color space, the entire color gamut, the outside bounds of that are mostly finish and reflectivity of the surface. What we print on our desktop printers and what we can get just in color is our CMYK. That's the narrowest range of color space. What we see on our TVs is the 88 RGB, and that's the high def 4K TV. And that's adding some of that reflectivity from the screen. And what we can do today with all of our finishes is incorporate the entire realm of color space. And this really shows you what that is. So in this picture, we've got sky, we've got sun, we've got sand, and we've got ocean. We know what those colors are in our mind, and that's what we read them as. But when you zoom in and you kind of pixelate that image, you start to see how many different colors are making up those overall blues and greens and sand tones. And all of that is how light's reflecting off the surface and how our eye is reading those colors. And that's what true natural variance is. And that's where the industry is getting to. So before we get on to surface again, I want to talk quickly about gauges and formats. Gauges is our thickness, formats is facial dimensions of our tile. And wall tile is doing something incredible in terms of this as well. So what we're doing in a lot of our wall tile programs is we're slimming down the thickness. Oftentimes, instead of our large formats being 10 or 12 or even 13 mils thick, now we're getting 6 and 5 mil thick ceramic bodies, even in our larger formats. What that's doing is, in most cases, shipping containers are shipping less than half full in ceramics because they max out in weight. The thinner we make our material, the more we can optimize our shipping costs. It's dropping our landed costs for our clients, and it's letting ceramics get into a lot more specifications. The other thing that we're doing a lot in the ceramic industry, because of our pressing and our firing characteristics are getting so much more refined, we're able to, there's manufacturers like Porcelanosa and a couple of the others here that are making 1.5 meter wall tiles. which is exactly the size of a normal shower or tub surround. So you no longer have vertical joints in your showers. All you have is horizontal joints, and you maybe only have 3 or 4 of those. That's minimizing the grout, and it's optimizing the installation for the installation professionals. Here's something really exciting. It came out just last year. The think tank in Spain, ITC, that partners with one of the most advanced graduate studies ceramic engineering programs in Castellón, has successfully fired ceramics using a blended fuel source of natural gas and hydrogen. They're doing this as a pilot project to give the ceramic industry and the hydrogen extraction industry time to catch up to this technology. Because we're firing, almost all the manufacturers are firing with natural gas today, they want to give the industry about a decade to be able to do the switch over to hydrogen. This is proof of concept that we can actually fire with hydrogen. We can get the right bell curve to sinter our product reliably, just like we do with natural gas. But now we can add hydrogen into the mix, reducing our emissions, reducing our reliance on fossil fuels, and allowing for a changeover to greatly reduce ceramic tiles' embodied energy and emissions as well. So enough on capabilities. Let's start getting into the aesthetics and where wall tile is going. And this is an image that I use in most of my trend presentations because it really kind of showcases how trends work. And it's always an evolution. In every case, we start with an idea, a concept of what we want to do. What's our goal? In this case, our goal is to light a room. How we do that depends on our capabilities. As our capabilities get more and more advanced, the effect is much better, the costs go down, et cetera, et cetera. Where we're at today in the ceramic industry is that high efficiency LED, highly manipulative bulb that we can change the color of right on our phones. That doesn't mean that we're doing anything really all that different. We're just doing it a little bit better and a little bit more efficiently. So what I wanted to show is we're kind of in one of the most crazy times that certainly any of us have seen in our lifespan. And our tastes have developed dramatically over the past 4 years. All of those trends are still relevant today. And where we're at now in technology is able to embody those trends and create looks that adhere to those trends much, much better. So I'm going to go over some of the key sort of macro trends that have been important to us and remain important to us today and probably for the next few years. And one of those is biophilia. It really kind of hit home for everyone as we got locked indoors for about a couple of years. We realized how important our connection to the environment was, how essential it was to us as humans to have a relationship with nature. And we started to see a lot more of these motifs come into our designs for our interiors and our exteriors, moving our interiors to our exteriors as well. So in biophilia, we see a lot of natural reliefs and patterns, and we do a lot of them in monochrome as well, just using light and shadow, using the natural environment paired with these natural structures and concepts to give a very simple kind of background idea for our plant material to have a relationship with. I love seeing these tonal echoes where we've got just an overlay of a floral or a vegetative print that's almost an echo on top of this stone or metal or cement look, and we're seeing a lot of that. I talked a little bit about third fire. This is actually a third fire deco, but it goes through our modern inkjet, and we get our stone look in the background. That's our first fire. Then it'll go through the inkjet. It's getting glossy ink. It's getting a glue that's picking up a granilla and maybe a couple of different types of granilla that sinters into this beautiful frit on the surface. That granilla is also creating structure. They're also creating a relief structure with a sinking ink that carves in about 1 millimeter to the surface as well. So there's so many different layers of structure that's going on in modern wall tile, especially in our highest definition third fire decoratives that we're really seeing a revival of this year. Here's a single fire where we've got an opalescent metallic ink that's in the background that is the exact same motif as what we're printing in color on top. It's just shifted a little bit off register. So as we move around the space, that opalescent deco changes and adapts with us. So we are creating dynamic spaces with our wall tile that's using light and shadow. We're seeing another thing where we're pairing natural motifs with human mathematical interpretations, things like MC Escher's tessellations, spinning different micro motifs and creating tessellations within our biophilic design, and doing things like wallpaper, like a silk wallpaper that not only has the look, but has the burnished texture, that has the texture of all of those fibers. All of that's being printed digitally on the surface on a flat-bodied ceramic tile. Here's one aspect of biophilia that I'm seeing a lot in our industry that doesn't get talked about as much because it's not a print of a leaf or a flower or an anthropomorphic form, but it's taking all of the colors from nature. It's taking all of the colors from that living wall and bringing them into that modern industrial cement look. So all the patina that's in there gives relationship to more vegetative matter that comes into the environment. So we've got a lot of patterns that are bringing in more capability to add more vegetation to spaces. So organic forms, raw forms that are minimally worked, that are letting things be exactly what they are, that aren't trying to overly embellish, is another way that we're really seeing trending, especially in wall tile, where we're taking the soul of the material and letting it shine, where we're trying to create not just the look, but the feel, the invitingness and the depth of the material. And because of the technical capabilities that we have in digital decoration today, our wall tile is getting so sophisticated where we can create organic structures. This was actually, from the press, a flat tile. All of that structure is printed digitally. So we've got a flamed limestone there where we're adding some structure in volume onto the surface. We're taking away some structure with a carving ink called Camaleonte as well. And we're creating this beautiful flame structure in a natural wall tile that creates so much added depth and structure from the texture that we can create digitally. We're using reflectivity. In this case, we've printed an organic glue that burns off in the kiln, and we've added different reflectivity surfaces. This one is a triptych that can expand to as much space as you want, or just 3 tiles. We've got 3 different finishes within this tile. In the background, we've got a hyper matte blue stone, Belgian stone, and then on the black line of that sunflower, we've got a highly reflective opalescent black, and then we've got a semi-gloss surface in the petals of that sunflower as well. All of that's happening in one single tile, and none of that was possible even 2 years ago with the capabilities that we had. I showed you that picture of the Ishtar Gate and the ancient Egyptian faience. And this is the kind of patina that we can get. We can actually print non-metal metallics. So what we do there is we print a gradient of all the grays and copper tones that we see in an oxide, and then we print a glossy ink on top. So this is a non-metal metallic that can even withstand traffic. I know in this case we're putting it on a wall, but we could put this on a floor, which is again something we could never do in just even 2 years ago. As we saw in that picture of the seascape, natural variation is broad. What we see in nature is V3 or V4 variation. And even in our monochrome palettes today, this is what we're seeing. And it's what we did in handmade, long-fired ceramics before, because depending on how close the tiles were within the kiln to the combustible fuel source, in a lot of our classic tile, it was wood or charcoal that we used. And what we're doing today is we're getting that variation with using natural glaze and then some digital manipulation to get that variation that we used to get in our handmade tiles. So we're doing things like breeze blocks, structural ceramics where we're not even using the walls. We're actually creating ceramic structural material as well, using ceramics as adaptive materials to mitigate negative contingencies that we see in our environments. We're doing a lot with illusory installs where we've got tile that looks like it's an individual tessellation or a water jet piece where it's actually scored, and it's simple install for our installers where we're able to utilize some of our new leveling clip and edge profiling systems where we can get that regular joint, where we can keep our planarity, and it's letting product designers do really incredible things that's lowering cost for end users. We're seeing augmented reality where our veins and our stones actually have metal. This is a beautiful macro shot of a natural marble look where all of that's done digitally. So that's a great view of the Camaleonte ink that sinks into the body of the tile and creates relief from the different minerals that we'd have in this natural stone that we see in this ceramic body wall tile. Now, with so many years of history we have to draw upon in ceramics, I love seeing these new revivals of some of the most iconic periods of design where ceramic had so much relevance. We're seeing a lot of this come back to the fore. Things like classic handmade tile, and we're seeing a lot of manufacturers take traditional handmade tile, make impressions of that mold, and then take high resolution images of what the patinas look like and overlaying the patina onto that handmade surface so we can actually recreate perfectly things like Moroccan zalige and all kinds of handmade tile today, or mash them up in this case with famous watercolor painters and incorporating them in glaze, marrying that with a beautiful curvaceous Art Deco and mid-century modern form. I love the restraint that we're seeing from our product developers today, where we've got so much at our disposal that we can do in terms of augmentation. And we're leveraging these capabilities very, very intelligently. In this case, just creating a simple water effect that creates a dappled light and shadow on this backsplash tile. What we're seeing from the industry today is the ability to look at the past and shape where the future is going. And I love seeing that with all of the capabilities that we have, because what we're asking, or what our clients are asking of us, is that design equal benevolence, that we're creating a better future, that we're creating better spaces with generational impact. And that's something that ceramics have more than almost anything in this industry. So I hope I've given you some cool ideas. And thank you very much. I'm here if you have any questions. Joe's got a mic if you do.
Do you have any questions for our guru?
In the slide where you sort of outlined the trends in the past few years, those were quite different from each other, but then you were talking about a sort of general trend.
Yeah, so let me go back there. I mean, I've got, if you want to take a look, TileSpainUSA.com has almost all of my presentations over the past few years. They've got video recordings of them in the educational section, and all of those were the macro trends from my past 4 years of what was applying to the ceramic industry. Let me try and get back there. All of them kind of build on each other. So I kind of bolded out, and it's tough to see on the screen, the ones that really kind of built on each other. But we started in 2019, we started to see a departure from minimalism, and we started to see maximalism come in. And what that did was it brought in a bunch of different patterns and a bunch of different colors to the space. And that was really kind of the big takeaway from 2019. Maximalism kind of went away, but we kept a lot of our love for color and patterns from all around the world, and we started to see that being mashed up. colors became very, very important there, and wabi sabi, sort of the appreciation for imperfection, um, and different period specific relevance to different periods of design, different areas around the world. And so as we go through, like, all of these have relationship to each
Yeah,
other.
I think on the second, no, that's too close to the. I think on a second view, I think I can now see the connection because obviously, yeah, if you're going from just like a more complex stuff, then it obviously makes sense that those complex stuff are the organic patterns of
Right.
the
That's kind of why I built this presentation this way, because like Joe's saying, 2019 was the calm before the storm, but in terms of design inspiration, it was all of a sudden it was this huge change from what we'd seen for a decade, and then the world shut down. And then we had to kind of figure out where we went from there. But we had that burst of inspiration and color and vibrancy, and I hated maximalism, but it did a lot of really cool things for getting people outside of their comfort zone and sort of opening up ideas.
why was it? It just happened to be before the storm. It doesn't have any relevance to the actual storm.
That's a really good question.
My take on it.
Yeah.
We've seen in other, where there's been a big global catastrophe like 2008, the financial thing, everybody retreated to something very safe.
Yeah.
So there was a lot of magnolia kind of interiors, sandstone, very, safe times.
Yeah.
Somehow the pandemic, people reacted the opposite way and actually kind of turned up the kind of, the embracing feeling. They wanted to feel nurtured by their interiors, didn't they? And so
Yeah.
they went for things which are more colourful. They differentiated children's spaces. Kitchens became a lot more vibrant, and it's sort of
Yeah, and I think 2008 had a big impact on that as well. So like, depending on where you were in the world, the crisis may have lasted up to a decade. So it may have lasted up to 2018, basically, right?
Yeah, I'm Greek. We're having it.
So there you go. Yeah. So people were making safe choices for a very long time because they had to. And as things started to get better, things, whether the crisis had completely gone away or not, things were getting better kind of universally, right? And so there was a bit of a, okay, well, now I can express myself, and I don't have to necessarily build a beige box so that it's saleable to anyone and everyone. I can build a place that tells my story, whether it's a commercial environment and an office story, or it's a personal home. And that started to get more and more important. And then our world crashed in on us again. And we started to realize, well, now this is what's really important, is that I do what's right for me and my family and things like that. And so we kind of doubled down on that, and maximalism did its work, but it kind of went away. And we started to create more cohesive stories that were more fit for each one of us personally. The neat thing, there's a couple of manufacturers that have kintsugi programs, and almost all of them are porcelain floor tile, and almost all of them use non-metal metallic ideas. So if in painting, if you paint non-metal metallic, you're painting reflectivity in color as opposed to using metallic pigments. So you create the gradations that make it look like metallic. And then what we're doing in ceramic is we're printing a glossy ink on top of it, so it's doubling down on that. So it tricks your mind into thinking it's metallic, but it's not. So it looks like gold, but we're printing it in a glossy ink so that you can actually walk on it, because any gold or any kind of metallic glaze is fired at such a low temperature, it doesn't sinter hard enough. It can't withstand traffic because it's not actually an oxide that we're using there. We're actually using true metal, and it's fired in an oxygen-starved kiln. So that's not capable in floor tile. The kintsugi programs that we're seeing today with the new digital technology are high traffic programs, and they're absolutely exquisite.